What do brokers like to see when a ticket goes on sale? That question came to me in my inbox about a week ago, and it got me thinking because a lot of people ask me all the time, what should I know or not know about the secondary market? So I asked my friend, Martin Haigh from Total Tickets, to come on and help me uncover the top 5 things that brokers like to see when a ticket goes on sale. Why does this question matter? For a number of reasons. Number one, you need to ask yourself the question of whether or not you really want to eliminate resale from your ticket strategy. Number two, it helps you understand how almost impossible it will be to ever eliminate all resale. Number three, it is an interesting question to understand the different ways and the different thinking processes that go on in the secondary market. I say at the very beginning of the episode how resourceful brokers and people in the secondary market are in finding ways to buy tickets or work through the system and capture opportunities. For the secondary market, overcoming some of these challenges and some of these roadblocks that are put in their way, it's existential. And you might say, duh, but I think it pays to think through that. What does that mean? But most importantly, I hope that this conversation that we have today is going to get you to the point where I want everybody to get, which is to make a serious consideration of what they want their distribution to look like. What do you want your distribution to look like? And as I talk to Martin, we uncover how distribution is an important strategic decision for you to make. But before we get to the conversation and we unveil our top 5s, first, thank you for being here. This is the first episode I posted in a while. I'm going to get back to it. Let me know what you want or need to hear. It's my email, dave@davewakeman.com. I want to include your voice here because one of the nice things about the Talking Tickets newsletter, which you can get at talkingtickets.substack.com, and through the Business of Fun podcast, is your voice. So I want to make sure that that continues to be a part of the podcast. So send me a note, dave@davewakeman.com, and tell me your guests that you'd like to hear from. Tell me the questions you would like to answer, just like this one. What do brokers love to see when a ticket goes on sale? And the other voices you want to hear from, the technologies you need to know to work with, the topics that are important to you. Make sure you sign up for the Talking Tickets newsletters, talkingtickets.substack.com. Share this episode with somebody. But back to the topic at hand. So Martin Haigh and I, we talk about the top 5 things that brokers like to see when a ticket goes on sale. And we give you a little bit of a hint into the psychology that goes into these things and some of the reasons why. This is not comprehensive because anytime I talk to somebody or I go to any of the conferences, I am amazed at the new approaches and the new ideas that drive people and help people in the secondary market get tickets or sell tickets or find new customers. They are incredibly creative. And I hope that this episode comes off a little tongue-in-cheek because that is sort of the nature of it. It's not meant to be seriously condemning one side or the other. As I talk about with Martin later on in the podcast, we are both somewhat agnostic on it. My day-to-day in the secondary market was a long time ago. The business has changed tremendously, right? Some of the things that people do regularly now, maybe I wouldn't necessarily want to do. What I did differently in the past is irrelevant, right? Because it's a different business. What we did want you to think about, though, is the role or lack of role that you can see for the secondary market in your business and to get a better understanding of what people are doing. So I'm curious to see what you think of this conversation that I have with Martin Haigh on the Business Fund. All right. So welcome back to the Business Fund podcast. Today is a special holiday edition, and we are going to talk about the things that scalpers love when a ticket goes on sale. And this came to me through a question in my inbox at dave@davewakeman.com. So I thought I would have my friend Martin Haigh come on and talk about this because Total Tickets just put out a really great, kind of primer on resale in the secondary ticket market. So we're going to start out. I'm going to tell you, like, look, because people listen all over the world, it doesn't matter if you call them a tout, a broker, unauthorized reseller, resellers, consolidators, whatever it is. It just means reselling the tickets. I think Martin and I both agree that we are kind of agnostic on the whole thing. Martin's been learning about this. I was heavily involved in the secondary market for many, many years through some work I did with Yellowtail Wines, American Express, the hotel chains like the Marriott, the Four Seasons, and I've seen it evolve and change. And so some of the things probably now I understand the good and the bad, and some of the things that happen now maybe aren't as things that I find maybe a little more problematic than stuff that I did when I was younger. But I thought this was kind of like a fun topic to talk about, an interesting thing. Also, because a lot of people don't seem to understand exactly how brokers still manage to get tickets. They don't understand exactly like some of the techniques and ideas that go on behind here. And one of the things that I've always been impressed by is like these guys on the secondary market will always find a way around any kind, a lot of these rules and a lot of these technological fixes. So it's interesting to talk about. I really like the report that Martin and Total Tickets put together. So Martin, thanks for being here. You've got a really amazing view out your back window. So this is great.
Yes, I'm in South
Africa.
Did I
cover everything at the start? That's a great one.
You certainly did cover everything. Thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. It's good to see you again. All right. So we have laid this out. And again, hopefully people are going to enjoy this as much as we did when we put it together. Because part of the reason we did this is because we were like, oh yeah, this is totally great. We were laughing and having a good time. So I hope that this comes across in the spirit. But we came up with our top 5 things that brokers or scalpers was the question, but brokers like to see when a ticket goes on sale. So we're going to count them down from number 5 to number 1. And I'm going to go ahead and just tilt my hand right away and say that this is not really in any order. It's just the 5 the way I wrote them down. But we'll start out with number 5. And number 5 is secondary market resellers, brokers, touts. They love it when the ticket is locked to an account. Why is that, Martin?
Why is that? Because a lot of people think that's going to stop reselling, but actually it doesn't stop it at all, because these brokers can easily buy burner phones, for instance. So they quite like it. There's a barrier for other people to buy tickets, but there's no barrier for them. So they will buy lots of tickets, they'll attach it to a burner phone, and they'll basically sell the burner phone. I mean, how much can you buy a burner phone for, Dave? What do you reckon on the market? Shoot,
probably if you buy them in bulk, you can probably buy them for relatively cheap. Probably, I'd say $25 a pop, maybe.
Yeah, and what's the average markup out there on a secondary ticket for a big event? I mean, hundreds of dollars could be for a proper one. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah,
therefore,
absolutely.
$25 is not a deterrent whatsoever if you're going to be making $100, $200 on a ticket.
Yeah, because it's not like they're buying fancy. It's not like they're buying an iPhone to put the thing on. They're buying just a regular anything that'll show that barcode or anything that'll allow them entry. So probably at the most $100.
Yeah, and the reason why it's probably number 5 is because there is still a limitation. You've got to physically meet someone or post that burner phone to someone. So it's not. It doesn't stop people from reselling, but it would slow it down slightly. But it is not a barrier to these big guys. They will post that phone. They will meet someone or pay someone to hand that phone over.
They will walk people into a venue. It doesn't matter, right? Because that's not an uncommon occurrence as well. So lock to an account is a hit because it creates a barrier for people who are maybe don't understand the ins and outs, but it doesn't necessarily stop a broker from walking somebody in, buying a burner phone, transferring a full account, or any sort of thing.
All right. So
If
that's
anything, if anything, though, it could be a really good thing, because then you as the broker get a personal relationship with the person buying the ticket, which then you could upsell them onto other tickets that you have or something. That VIP experience, people who are buying very expensive tickets would probably enjoy that in some ways as well, better than just a ticket being sent to you via an app.
That's absolutely right. And that is actually, I didn't lay it out, but it brings up a good idea, which is that, like, again, we're agnostic a little bit about the nature of it, but that's one of the good things that the secondary market can do, because there are buyers, maybe you call them VIPs or high net worth buyers, who don't have time or the inclination or the care to wait in the non-sale queue or like jump through the hoops. They'll just pay what it takes to buy the ticket. And having those personal relationships, that could be something where you consider a benefit of having a secondary market partner, because part of the thing is like these people are going to get the tickets no matter what. So understanding where the secondary market can play a role in that might be actually a benefit that people consider.
Yeah, and if you're buying a really expensive ticket, a World Cup final, when I say World Cup, I'm talking about soccer. I think you think that as well, Dave, sometimes. But the World Cup final ticket might cost you $5,000. If you know you've definitely not able to resell that, would you buy it in the first place if you knew that you wouldn't be able to sell it on? You're buying that ticket a year in advance, or maybe even more. If you're a high-powered CEO, you may not be able to attend that event. So there is definitely a good reason why secondary markets are good.
Yeah. And having this locked to an account, though, it doesn't limit it, but it does highlight the fact that though there is a possibility there. All right.
Yeah.
So number 4 then is buy now, pay later. And you had a really good point about this when we were planning this one out. This is good. So why do the brokers like buy now, pay later?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much money they have. Some of these brokers have got a lot of money, but basically you're only putting a deposit down on the ticket. So if you have to buy the full price ticket at $300, $400, whatever, that could be a detriment to a large broker buying lots of tickets, because they may not have a huge credit line. I doubt it. But what I mean here is that they're just putting a deposit down on the ticket. They only have to put down $100 instead of $400. Hey, I'll buy four times the amount of tickets then, because I can buy them now, sell them immediately, and only put down a small amount of money and get that other buyer to basically fund that difference, that money that you owe. It's fantastic. Yeah. They must love it.
It's absolutely true. It's because I was talking to a guy on a broker, secondary market, was explaining to me the using the deferred payment credit cards. It's the same reason, right? And it's just anything that like lets me spend more money in the present and figure out how to pay it off later is great. That's why the credit cards and the points are such a big deal. It's just because it allows them to delay the full investment. And this buy now, pay later is a little bit less restrictive as far as credit terms go. So then it's not like you even have to have the credit card. It's just like basically it's like those mortgages, the no income mortgages that set off the financial crisis. That's what buy now, pay later is, except for it's like for tickets and retail goods. It's like basically as long as you have a pulse, they'll let you go in a lot of ways, because there's not necessarily as much, at least in the States, credit checks and requirements of income and all of these things, at least in the short term.
Yeah, I think it is changing a little bit. There are some companies out there now that have to do credit checks to see if people can afford to enter into those agreements. But basically, they're only just beginning to come in. Most scalpers will be very happy about seeing buy now, pay later, as long as they can create lots of accounts at these companies like Klarna or someone like that. And it's not difficult.
Right, and it is. You're correct. It is changing a little bit, but still in America, it's still a little bit of the Wild West. Like Europeans have a lot more consumer protections, right? Like just look at how wildly crazy sports gambling has gone in America, right? There's no restrictions at all. It's close to that with the buy now, pay later here in the States. But the thing is like too, it's even if in the case where a broker might use buy now, pay later to access more tickets, a lot of these guys have 850, like perfect credit scores, because they use the revolving credit so frequently, and they have such high credit limits due to the volume of tickets they're buying. So buy now, pay later. Another big hit with brokers. All right, so number 3. This one's fun because I've had an issue with this one for a long time, mainly because I felt like it has been used as a tool to convince artists to treat their fans poorly. It is rife for what we're going to talk about, how easy it is for brokers to game this system. But I think the thing's just a disaster. It's verified fan. And why is it that they love verified fan?
Well, because they stand more chance of buying a ticket than other people, basically, because they create perfect verified fan profiles. They can, once they know an artist is getting hot, very hot, and is likely to have huge on sales that are going to be sold out immediately, they've got a whole army of bots and things that are creating lots of email addresses, lots of Facebook, Twitter accounts, automatically posting positive things about that artist, whether it be Taylor Swift or BTS. And so they have hundreds, if not thousands, probably thousands if you're a sophisticated scalper, of pre-qualifying accounts with aged email accounts that look good, so that they jump to the front of the queue when buying tickets. Whereas you may be a real Taylor Swift fan, but you may have only posted once to Facebook that you like Taylor Swift, or you may have created a new email address recently, or you are actually the biggest Taylor Swift fan ever, but you're just not on social media. And you know what? You're probably not going to get a ticket because the scalpers have got thousands of profiles of fake Taylor Swift fans.
Yeah, and that's where I felt like there was a lot of room for bad behavior, or where the artist would be put into a bad position, because like boosts and things like this, they can be gamed, right? Like, it's just like it's just a situation where you have the best intentions, but it can be easily manipulated.
That's exactly right. I'm sure Taylor Swift said, I want these tickets to get into my real fans. And how many times and I'm sure that's exactly what she wanted to do. But I'm sure that there's on social media is rife with people saying, well, I'm a real fan. I've loved her ever since I was XYZ, and I've gone to 15 shows. And there's a whole history of why this person clearly qualifies as an absolute verified fan. But Ticketmaster, who runs that system, or there are other systems for other ticketing companies, say, sorry, you didn't get through all our checks, basically, and you didn't get a ticket.
Yeah, and when how do I want to say it? When they say that there's millions and millions of bot attacks on the verified fan system, it's absolutely true. And that just shows, to me, that illustrates how problematic and how much of a challenge a system like that is. Because, again, like you said, there's so many aged email accounts, right? There's Reddit groups and Facebook groups and private groups and groups of groups, WhatsApp groups that are set up just to sell aged email accounts, right? Because if you have Google or Yahoo, or I don't know if Hotmail's around, but they're probably still Hotmail addresses. Yeah. And they're all just set up, like people have set these things up years and years ago, right? Like, and now they're older, right? So they don't have the same history. So they, the algorithm rewards them in a certain way. It's the same way with cell phones, right? You can just buy hundreds of cell phone numbers at a time that all go to one centrally located spot. And that helps you manipulate some of these electronic systems to gain access to tickets. So, but so verified fan is, and these similar programs are problematic because they don't limit anybody. In fact, they make it easier for people, because if you have the ability to create hundreds and thousands of email addresses, you have a advantage, right? Because you only need to hit a certain percentage, whereas somebody who only has one email address needs to hit 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think what we're basically spelling out here is that you as an individual person trying to buy a ticket, even if you get all your friends trying to buy a ticket, even if you've got each of you got 5 devices at home, you're trying to go online, there's lots of reasons why you're not going to get a ticket, because there's one person out there with access to 5,000 accounts with 5,000 different credit card or way of paying. They're always going to be ahead of you. So it's I mean, I'm a defender of primary ticketing systems. They are not trying to, generally, there are a couple of bad actors out there, but generally they're all trying to sell tickets absolutely correctly. And so when people come on board saying it's fixed, I should have got a ticket, I didn't get it, why is there a reseller selling this ticket 10 seconds later on? It's because there are thousands of machines ahead of you with very, very professional people with very advanced algorithms out there.
Oh yeah, 100%. It is. I don't think that anybody is not trying to do it well or do it incorrectly. It's just what I have found interesting is when I talk to people who are even in the industry, who maybe work at a team or work at a venue, they're not directly connected to the box office. They don't understand all of this stuff is going on. I'm not even necessarily sure. I just never ask it of the box office people. The box office people might not always understand, and that's why we're kind of doing this podcast, because they don't have any idea what's going on. Because I saw it a lot. People were like, "What? How in the world can I get Taylor Swift tickets?" And there'd be people who were in the industry. I was like, "What? Don't you have a Ticketmaster rep? Don't you have somebody that you can call and do somebody you work with?"
Yeah, I think you said something earlier.
I'm in this queue, man. I'm in this queue, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you're gonna get screwed. There's so many people competing for these things.
I think you said something earlier that was very true, is that the scalpers will always find a way, right? Because the primary ticketing companies make a couple of % per ticket or something. So the amount of money they can put into research and development to try and thwart scalpers, if that's what they're trying to do, is limited by the amount of money they have. Whereas the scalpers make hundreds of % maybe per ticket. And so the amount of effort and money and time they can put into thwarting or getting around all these systems is easier, right? The money, the odds are stacked in their favor.
Right. Well, it's existential for them. They have to find a way around, or they have to go into a different business. Whereas for the primary ticketing company, right, it's one of many issues and challenges they're dealing with. And to me, I think the important thing is to understand that flip in perspective, right? Which is like, if you're the people you're fighting on the secondary market, it's an existential crisis for them if one of these programs work, right? So it's everything that they have to do to be able to continue their business. They have to find a solution, right? Yeah. And whereas you have 15 or 20 things that could be a priority, and you can only hit one or two of them at a time, so you're always fighting a difficult battle. So that's Verified Fan and similar sort of programs that are meant to limit to only, like, quote unquote real fans. Come with the best intentions, but they're hard because, again, existential crisis, the ability to create cheap emails, cheap phone numbers, all cheap things that can bots posting to my Taylor Swift fan page constantly. All of these things work. So number two is self-select seats. Why do brokers and scalpers and touts love self-select seats?
Well, how wonderful. I don't want the bad ones. I just want the good ones. So I've got like 1,000 different bots all saying, oh, I want to buy a ticket. You get to the front of the queue because everyone else is behind you, and it shows which seats do you want. You go, well, I want an aisle seat, or I want next to the stage, or the premium seat. So when you first enter into that sales funnel to buy a ticket, you've got like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever it gives you. So you've got, 1,000 bots, maybe 10,000 bots, maybe 100,000 bots if you're a massive scalper and you're looking at Taylor Swift, and you're all looking at all the best tickets. Now, if it's Taylor Swift, you're probably trying to buy them all anyway, and you don't care the difference between the good or the bad. But you might just think, I just want the good. So I'm just going to hold all these. I've got almost the whole venue now is booked out by ticket scalpers out there looking at the best seats, and they'll just pick all the best ones. End of aisle is nice. Near the stage is obviously good. They'll just pick all the premium ones, and then they'll let the ones they don't like go cheaply, or rather just let them go, not cheaply, just let them go. So they'll just buy all the best ones. How great's that? I've got all the best seats. No one else has. And then therefore you can really start pumping up the price, because you'll know there are no seats available in the front row anywhere because you've got them all.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly right. You hold them, you use that cart timer to the ultimate maximum benefit,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
ride the wave. And you can buy the whole. I mean, you can buy thousands and thousands of them at a time, or you can just buy a limited number. Because then the thing is like because you have the bot that's telling you the countdown on the timer, you can keep jamming the system back up, so you can take as long as you want to buy those things too. So it's like the instant sellout is bogus because a lot of times they're all jammed up by bots with everything in their carts, and then they might still like if you can catch one. I mean, again, it's like playing the lottery. You can catch them when they drop because they have to drop. They can't
release
manufacture all those
something.
transactions at the same time either. So it's it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. But that is exactly why these self-select seats work so well, because you can jam up everything. You can make a decision on what's working or what's not, or you can see if you can even get a feel if there's not enough demand, and you can just like release everything and you flood the market the other way. That doesn't happen that often anymore, but so it goes.
Yeah, so some, I mean, like our software, we allow the client, the seller, like Taylor Swift, whatever, to pick whichever way they want. But they might do absolute self-select, where people can go in and pick whatever they want, or an illusion of that, where we say how many tickets do you want? They say 3, and we give the ticket buyer 3 or 4 choices of which one. But even if you start moving away from absolute exact self-select to an illusion of self-select, it still works the same way, because you've still got 100,000 bots looking at which seats are the best ones that are available to them, and they'll just pick the best ones.
Yeah, this one's very hard to beat because there's no absolute way to knock it out. Even like you said, the wide open way that like some companies do it's problematic because then they'll just give greater choice to jam up all the seats at once. But even 3 or 4, you're still blocking up, and it still limits your ability to lessen the load that people can they can buy, right? Just because it's still, I think people don't understand the full scope of how many bots that there are hitting these systems at once. So like that 5 million thing number is probably on the light side in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think that there was a report that came out a while ago where for the Eras tour for Taylor Swift, there were 3.5 million tickets available, apparently, and there were 3.5 billion requests for seats. And I can promise you that 3.4 billion of those were bots.
Oh, yeah. I meant billion, not billion. Yes.
Yeah.
The problem is tremendous. So that's number 2 is self-select seats, and it's just because it's another tool that bots can use to slow down the release of seats. Right, they can hold hundreds and thousands of tickets at a time because these things are automated, and then they use the cart function, which is 8, 9, 10 minutes, as a way to go, oh, I want these, or I don't want these, or like, oh, I can get all of these. Maybe I'll buy the whole venue out. Okay, so the number one, drum rolls.
Drum roll.
Hopefully that comes through on the microphone. Lottery. Why do scalpers, brokers, touts, unauthorized resellers love a lottery?
Well, I'm just sitting there in front of my computer. I've just generated 1,000 credit cards. I've just generated 1,000 accounts, maybe more, and I can have a free call. I mean, it's even better than the buy now, pay later. It's a free deposit. I can create all these different accounts, aged accounts, whatever it might be, and just flood the seller with lottery requests saying, I would like to be in the lottery, please. And you've got you as an individual, Dave. You've got in there with you, your wife, and your son. Maybe I'm in there with my wife and a couple of friends. So I've got 3 chances in the lottery, but this scalper's got 10,000, or whatever it might be, chances. So work out the math yourself.
It's just like with some like the programs like Verified Fan. I have to be perfect. They don't have to be even right 1% of the time, and that is why the lottery is so great, because we keep coming back to the idea of the aged accounts, the aged email accounts, the phone numbers, the credit cards. I don't think people understand how easy it is for people to create 100 email accounts. or 100 credit card numbers, or to buy 100 cell phone numbers, right?
Yeah, to use
You don't have to.
VPNs.
I was going to say you don't have to have 100 cell phones. You could just have 100 numbers. They all ring to one number, right? And it tells you that it's coming in. It is a really great tool.
And you can go online and get a VPN to mask your IP address, because the ticketing companies are trying to weed out all the VPN, all the IP addresses that look similar and things. It's incredibly easy to do that. And actually, we've spoken a lot, Dave. We've spoken a lot about bots and things. I know there's been a lot of talk about the DOJ recently, and Ticketmaster and Live Nation, and legislation in trying to curb ticket scalping and things. And we've mentioned we're quite agnostic about that. But I used to tell people I thought that banning bots was a way forward into limiting ticket purchases by scalpers. I still think it is. But in the future, though, I mean, the future's now, that sounds such a ridiculous platitude, but anyone who's using Siri or Alexa and these things, that's a bot, right? So in the future,
Correct.
You're going to be talking to ChatGPT, and you're going to say, right, my name's Dave Wakeman. I live in probably a very affluent suburb somewhere, and I want to buy a ticket to see. Who's your favorite band at the moment, Dave?
My favorite band at the moment is I have been listening to a lot of LCD Sound System.
Okay, LCD Sound System. So you're gonna say to ChatGPT, you're gonna say, right, I want a ticket for LCD Sound System, and if they play within 100-mile radius of wherever I live, please use this credit card to buy a ticket up to the face value of $500 or whatever, or buy me two. And you will leave that as a sleeper command with a bot, and it will scour every 10 seconds. Is LCD Sound System coming to 100 miles radius from where you live? And it will just buy a ticket. Then it will send you this thing to say, Dave, well done, you're going to see LCD Sound System on your mother-in-law's birthday. So then you'll have to have a bit of a problem about getting to see that, something like that. And then they'll have to undo this legislation about bots, because we're all going to be using them.
Right. Well, it's the idea too, which is almost impossible to legislate for, which is good bot versus bad bot. Because like a lot of tools, a bot's not good or bad. It is how you use it. And really, it's not necessarily for me to say the way you're using it is good or bad. That is sort of a societal thing. Right, which is kind of why I'm agnostic about primary versus secondary market relationship, because I was like, well, I know that there are tons of use cases where the secondary market can be valuable, right? Because they can reach a different market, right? There are economic studies that show that, like, because something's on the secondary market at a high price, that the perception of value is greater, right? And that has a branding impact on you on the primary side, right? So at the same time, it's like if your tickets come out super, super high, it can have, on the primary side, it can have a negative impact on what people perceive as the value of your ticket. So, or you as a band, or you as a venue, or you as a team, whatever, so there's like good and there's good and bad use cases on both sides. So it's not I don't want the good bot versus bad bot thing to sound like a value judgment, because it's not my job to determine that. It's what the society decides is a good or bad use of the bot. And I think that that's problematic, because people's opinions change, they vary. People have become very much like to talk to Siri and Alexa and use these things. And I don't think anybody would view those as bad uses of technology. At the same time, though, how quickly does it become something where it is bad? And that's really the difficult thing to legislate for or to decide.
Totally agree. I mean, you're hitting something on the nail here, nail on the head here, which is good bot, bad bot. I mean, the industry really sort of talks about, well, are you a good reseller or a bad reseller? It depends on what your definition of a good or a bad reseller is. But what Taylor Swift probably be completely okay about would be for a buyer to buy that ticket, and if they can't turn up, give it to their dad or their uncle or their sister or their brother and resell it to them. They're okay with that. But some people in the industry aren't okay with it when it's someone doing it for economic gain who does it in an industrial scale. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head here with good pot, bad pot, and also good reseller, and what some people in the industry might call a bad reseller. So it's very nuanced, very nuanced.
What, and I would say that, like, the interesting thing again about kind of highlighting these ideas and then having a conversation like this is that all the ideas seem to flow to the extremes, and that creates a problem where it's like black or white. And so with the resale, with the bots, with all of this stuff, it's not really black and white. It's a lot of gray. And that's the problem I think people struggle with, is that the nuance gets lost, that there is or there's no room for nuance.
I would 100% guarantee. We created this total ticketing. We created this report. It was basically a bit of a white paper for industry insiders, and quite often people would come to me saying, I don't want to allow any tickets to get on the resale market. What can I do? And so I created this document, and then we send it to these promoters, and quite often they said, oh, I think I've changed my view a bit on reselling here. There's a lot of nuances in here. And they say, if I really, really want to try and stop it, I don't think I really want to actually now, because either the cost to me is too great, either in economic terms or in lost sale terms. There are lots of ways it could be negative for them. But this report, it certainly opened my eyes into those nuances that you are absolutely talking about. It's not black and white. It's very easy for the public to say, I hate this, why didn't I get a ticket? If they were to read this report, maybe they'd understand, or maybe listening to us, they'd understand why there's lots of reasons why they don't get a ticket.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, sometimes it's just because, like Taylor Swift too, these things are just so popular, right? Like, I mean, that could happen. I went to see Pearl Jam at Madison Square Garden last year.
Oh, right.
That was as packed as like I've ever seen anything, and they've been around for 30 years. Sometimes it's just a show. I've even not gotten into a Rolling Stone show at Madison Square Garden. Sometimes you just can't get. Sometimes there's just no tickets available. And
a really stupid thing to say. Sorry, Dave. I want to say the one easy thing is, do you know who doesn't turn up to these events? A bot, right? A bot can't turn up. Someone turns up. Eventually, it does end up in the hands of someone who does, hopefully love that show, wants to see that band. Maybe they paid a lot of money for it, but almost always it's someone who really wants to be there.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And this thing about no tickets on the secondary is, I would tell them, I would go, like, look, you're never going to keep every ticket off the resale market. It's never going to happen. I think that what I try to advocate for is I try to advocate for the people who are the primary point of sale to have a very considered and thoughtful discussion about how the on sale and using all the tools on the primary and the secondary market works for them, right? Because it's a part of the way that their strategy will show up in the world is distribution. So does it make sense to only put your tickets on the primary market? Does it make sense to have a secondary market partner to resell sort of part of your inventory? What makes sense to you? And it probably it's not a one size, even one size fits all in one venue. It probably changes depending on the show, because each of them does something a little bit better and a little bit different from each other.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk to promoters about selling tickets, we give them, it's almost like going into it's like going into a coffee shop. How many different types of, coffees or blends or mocha frappuccino with caramel shots? There's hundreds of different things you can order in order to get your coffee. Well, there are lots of different things that we give to these promoters. Say, here are the 27 different things you can do to limit, if you want to do that, this is the most nuclear one, the one that's going to limit the most amount of sales. And they take a smorgasbord, basically. They think, well, I'll take a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of that. And they create their own strategy. And hopefully that's an informed strategy, because we've given them all the little menu items of what they could pick. And it's up to them for what they want to pick, basically.
Yeah. And that's really where my point of view on this falls down now, is like, be very considerate about the way that you're going to distribute and sell your tickets, because there are so many tools and there are so many ways that it just pays to to slow down and make that like a really deliberate decision. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, just like everywhere else in life. And I'm just, I advocate just like being really thoughtful about the distribution decision, the same way I do about the pricing, right? Just know exactly what you're trying to get across, like what the outcome is you're looking for, and then make your decisions based on those outcomes. Because sometimes, using the secondary market as a clearinghouse for like really cheap tickets, because you don't want to discount, because discounts destroy your brand. Having a secondary market partner that can help you blow out some, like, especially like something like a baseball game, where like $5 or $10 tickets, and like you put some like some hard advertising or something behind it. It's way better than like saying, oh, we're gonna discount 75% off, because that's a whole different story you're telling.
Dave, you really make me laugh. You cannot do a podcast without saying don't discount. It's so funny.
Discounts
You're
are for dummies.
I completely agree, by the way. Completely agree. But I love the way you shoehorn that in. And for everyone, everyone read
You're always
everything Dave's got about discounting.
To get discounts are for dummies in any podcast. It's like a code. I'll tell you, the thing about it is that this discounts for dummies thing has taken me all over the world. It is the number one thing that people know me for.
And also, by the way, Dave, we've got to talk about something else, Dave. In that we've got about, I don't know, 5,000 Web 3.0 blockchain people who are absolutely furious with us here by saying the solution is blockchain. Come on, you guys, you can easily kill ticket touting and stuff if you want to. I think we need to talk a little bit about that, because they think we're all dummies. These blockchain people saying, "Come on, blockchain solves all these problems." And I think blockchain is one of the tools we could talk about, if you were to flip this around, instead of what do scalpers love versus what do they hate. But I personally don't think that blockchain is the holy grail that some blockchain people profess it to be. It certainly could be one tool that could be used, but it's just like blacklisting credit cards, or it's whatever it might be that ticketing companies have in their arsenal to stop or try and prevent ticket touting. It's not the holy grail, in my opinion. Dave, I don't think we've talked about this. What do you think?
Do I think that blockchain is the end all be all? No, absolutely not. But again, it's not because I think there's anything wrong with the technology. It's totally fine, and the people who are working with it, they're doing really like interesting and cool stuff. It's just that the reality is that there is always a way that somebody on the secondary market is going to find a way to work around it, right? You're never going to be able to stop if you have somebody has 4 tickets and they want to sell 3 they go, I can sell you 3, and I walk you in. You're never going to stop that, right? Or they'll pay somebody to mule a group of people in. There's always going to be a way around it. It is a tool that can help limit it, because there's some people who just won't, some people in some shows that just won't bother with it, right? It can frustrate the process. But if it's a high value show, like, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Harry Styles, it's not going to stop. It's not going to, it just won't stop them. It might slow things down, but it's just not something that will stop people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite heavily involved in a couple of blockchain ticketing companies, and I'm not discounting there is a place for them, as you are. It's just another thing that can help, but I don't think it's the be all and end all that will solve all these problems. So it's a good tool that can be used to help, but it is not the final and ultimate solution.
Yeah, shoot, and I don't have the exact information in front of me, but the example that I point to, as far as like if you wanted to go completely figure out a way to shut the whole thing down, the best I've ever seen done was the Cures Tour of America this past summer. They were able to limit resale, and they also cut down on fees. They did a lot of limiting, but it took like so much work to get it done. But you can do it. It's just it's a balancing act, right? And again, you have to also ask the question of like the stuff you can do with the blockchain. Is that exactly what works best for your organization and for what you're trying to achieve with your tickets? Because again, these these examples of bad behavior, right? Like, fraud and tickets is still like around 1% or something. You're not going to eliminate that anyway, because that's not the people we're talking about in most cases.
Yeah.
Those are people who are going to commit fraud no matter what. So that's, if it's a really hot ticket, they're going to find a way around it. But most of the shows they don't sell out, right? So why would you want to limit the distribution? You want to look for ways to get the tickets in more places, because there's the law of mental and physical availability, right? People have to think of it and they have to be able to buy it. So you want to encourage that as much as possible. I mean, again, it's not that I have anything wrong or I don't think blockchain will work. It's just that you have to make that consideration for what's right for your business.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few clients come to me say, I want to stop ticket reselling, and I give them all the ways that I give them the way that will be the most effective way. And eventually, every single time I said, this is what you need to do, they've all said, I don't want to do it then, because it put their costs up dramatically. And also it means they sell far fewer tickets. And they say, but I need to sell tickets. You go, well, you're going to sell a lot less tickets. An example of that would be you have a verified email address against your driver's license, against your face, for instance, with some sort of facial recognition system. And you are only allowed to buy that ticket. Your name goes on the ticket. You can't transfer it. These sorts of things. That means that when you want to buy 5 tickets, then you can't buy 5 tickets. You only buy one for you, because you can't buy it for somebody else. Once if you've got somebody who's younger than 16 who doesn't have a credit rating or doesn't have an ID card or doesn't have whatever it might be that they might need, suddenly you can't all sit together because you can't make sure you're in row A, 1, 2, and 3. Suddenly you're not selling any tickets, and no one wants to be at an event on their own. They want to be with their friends. Things like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there are totally ways to do it. It's just that they're so prohibitive that does it make sense? And I mean, in a balance act for something like this is where you have one ticket can be transferred, right? You buy 2 and 1 can be transferred. I've seen that works better. But yeah, because I mean, most of the time these things are collaborative events. Like there's the social aspect of going with your friend, unless it's a GA show, you're like, well, if I can't buy the ticket for the friend next to me because they can't be online, then I'm screwed. Yeah. All right. So Martin, what would you like to tell people about the things that the brokers and the scalpers and the resellers and the touts, if you had to tell people one thing to remember about this topic, what would you tell them?
As if you're a ticket buyer, if you're a ticket buyer, Dave, my advice to them.
I'm sorry, I was waiting for you to answer.
Which way around? Sorry.
I would say for people who are on the team side, the venue side, the content production side, so on the primary side, because that's where most of the people who are listening to this are coming from.
I would say that your ticketing service provider should have a menu of options for you to decide if you do want to limit resale, and if you do, you should spend some time talking with them to work out the ramification of each one, because it does come at some cost, either financial, i.e. increased costs, or loss of sales. So you need to make an informed decision on what's right for you and what's right for the artist and the content, the content creator.
Right. Well, you stole my answer then, because I was just,
Oh.
my biggest thing is that's okay. Because that's the most important thing is you need to make a considered decision about what you want to do. That is the whole bulk thing. It's like, again, are bots good or bad? They're not. They're tools. Is the secondary market good or bad? It can go both ways, right? It's a tool. And, you need to make a considered decision about what's going to work best for you.
And on the flip side of that, if your primary ticket company, service provider, is saying, this is what we do to stop touting, and we turn it on or turn it off, then you should really think about, should I use that system? Because there isn't one. You don't turn it on or off. It's varying degrees of all these different menu of items you could use. So hopefully they should come to you telling you, here's all the different things you could use. Here's all the ramifications. Yeah. What's your objective? Let's work together. Not we'll turn it off or turn it on for you. That's not right.
Yeah, one size fits all means no. It's like an ultimatum. Means no. There's no one size fits all. It won't happen. And Martin, if people have not seen your report yet, how can they get a copy of
it? They can contact me. You can contact me by sales@totalticketing.com. You could find me on LinkedIn. My name is Martin Haigh, Martin Haigh, Haigh. I work for Total Ticketing. Or you could contact Dave Wakeman, your very friendly podcast guy, and he'll point you in the right direction, I'm sure. Sorry if that's extra work for you.
I will link to your, if I can find it now, which I'm sure I can, to the LinkedIn post that directs everybody to it in the show notes. Well, Martin, I'm going to let you get back to your holiday. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for indulging this rather ridiculous countdown. But at the end of the year, we got to count down stuff. So this is great.
Yes.
And thank you for doing this.
It's fun as always, Dave. Thanks very much. Have a great Christmas, everyone.
Let me know what you think, and tell me specifically what ideas this episode stimulated for you by sending me an email. It is my name, dave@davewakeman.com. Make sure we also have a Talking Tickets Slack channel with over 300 ticketing folks from around the world. And I'm going to put that in the show notes. You can let me know what you think there. Check out Martin's and Total Tickets secondary market report. It is a really... it's long because there's a lot of resources in it, but it's pretty concise. I found that if you are having questions or not sure where to start when you're thinking about the secondary market, it's a good place to start. So give it a look. I'm going to include the link to that in the show notes as well. Get the Talking Tickets newsletter. It's talkingtickets.substack.com. You've made it this far. We're almost an hour into this episode. You dig this, right? You've made it this far. Share this podcast with one or two friends of yours or colleagues who are questioning how they deal with the secondary market, who maybe have talked about needing to think through their distribution a little bit more. And let me know, who you're sharing it with or why you're finding it valuable. Send me a note. The next episodes I'm going to release, I have one with Jeffrey Shaw, about a book he wrote on self-employment, which covers me. It was pretty interesting. He reached out to me. I found the book really helpful. I'm going to share that one. And then I also have the First Fridays with Dave recording with planning for 2024. I'm going to put out those in pretty quick succession. So you're probably going to get more podcasts than you knew you needed in short order. That way I can kind of get back to having a clean slate with the podcasting and rebooting this, because I find these conversations helpful to me, and you find them valuable because the numbers have stayed high over the every time I put one out. So I'm grateful for you to still keep hanging out with me. But again, I want to include your voice in this podcast more than I've been able to do in the past. So I want your feedback. Send me an email, DM me on the social medias, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can send me regular mail. You can find my address easy enough. You can hit me up in the Slack channel. Just let me know. Number one, what do you find valuable? Who do you want to hear from, or what do you want to learn more about? And there's going to be some exciting things going on in the new year. I have a really cool project that I'm hoping to be able to announce at the very sometime in early January to mid-January. It's going to be specifically focused for people in the arts, theater, opera, things like that. It's in partnership with some really cool people. I can't get into more detail than to tease you and say that it's going to be all arts focused. It's probably going to be in Chicago, and it's going to be about a day and a half with a lot of learning and networking and excitement. But again, the first people to find out how to get into this thing and what the invitations are going to look like are going to need to sign up for the Talking Tickets newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com. But again, I'm sending this out the week before Christmas, 2 weeks before New Year's, at the tail end of Hanukkah. Happy holidays. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. Thank you for sticking around. And I will talk to you soon. Take it easy.